Ladies, oh, have we got a picture here? Oh, there he is. Ladies and gentlemen, how bonnet a party or dolly old eeks again. It is a truly fantabulous pleasure to be talking here on my favourite subject, me. That's right, and how I was able to take on the persona of Kenneth Williams. Now, for anybody who doesn't know who Kenneth Williams was, he was a great actor, famous for his performances on the radio, but also his performances in all the Carry On films, bar two, I think. Now, I should point out that I'm very dyslexic, and my parents sent me to a school of only 15 boys. We made up just one rugby team, and but they specialised in trying to treat people who had problems with dyslexia. Now, we had a lovely music teacher, and at the end of his music lessons, he used to, he would play us a record. And the record was by a character called Rambling Sid Rumpo, a creation of Kenneth Williams for a show called Round the Horne. And it went something like this. He was also, I have to point out, he was a strolling folk singer. And whatever he said sounded terribly rude, I think. Well, hello, me dearios. Tonight I shall have great pleasure, but first I'd like to sing you a few songs. Now, this first song is the ballad of the Wogglers Mooly. Joe, he was a young court wangler, munging greebles did he go, and he loved a bogler's daughter by the name of Chiswick Flo. Vain she was, and like a grusset, though her gander parts were fine, but she sneered at his court wangle as it hung upon the line. So he stole a Wogler's mooly for to make a wedding ring, but the Bow Street runners caught him, and the judge said, "You will swing." Oh, they hung him by the postern, nailed his mooly to the fence, for to warn all young court wanglers that it is a great offence. There's a moral to this story, though your court wangle be poor. Keep your hands off others' moolies, for it is against the law. Thank you very much. Well, certainly as schoolboys, we found that incredibly funny. It was so full of innuendo. Isn't it bizarre that we have a word like innuendo, which is sounds foreign, doesn't it, really? Like double entendre, but they are very much the bedrock of British humour. I was also very familiar with, of course, the Carry On films. My favourite being Carry On Screaming, "Rubber Titty frying tonight!" And of course there was also the Carry On up the Khyber, where he played the Qazi next to Bernard Breslaw's "Bound It In." But I think it's very difficult, thank you. I think it's very difficult to put my finger on how I was able to inhabit the role. I'm like a moist piece of plasticine, and anything that comes near me, I seem to sort of take it on board. When I was at drama school, I left drama school, I blossomed into non-entity, and therefore I had so much time on my hands. And I lived quite close to Kensington Gardens, and I used to walk up there on a summer's day as Kenneth Williams. They asked me why, but I did it, just sort of, I'd seen him on TV. And I had that thing, of course you're looking at me now and thinking, he's a bit fat, isn't he? I mean, someone actually said that to me the other day, said, when you were playing Kenneth Williams, did you have to slim down? I was younger and better looking, let's be honest. Yes, the other thing I used to do was also be a wine waiter at private dues. But Kenneth Williams would be in me. I don't know why. I mean, I used to listen to the radio so much. And, but I would be there as a wine waiter, handing around champagne. But, you know, I'd say things like, "Oh, fancy another bottle up your end?" You know, that's working, isn't it? And of course it went down very well. Now, one of these parties was an actor called Nigel Lindsay, who's gone on to do all sorts of amazing things like Shrek, and he was in Four Lions, and great actor. And he was working at the National Theatre for Terry Johnson. And he said, now he's about to do a play called Carry On Camping, Emmanuel and Dick. And you really ought to, he's desperately trying to find someone to play Kenneth Williams, and you would be absolutely perfect for it. So send off your details. I did, but unfortunately he'd already cast Adam Godley, who played it brilliantly. I mean, well played the other team. And I thought nothing more about it. And then I got a call from my agent in 2003, in September of 2003. He said, would I like to play Kenneth Williams in a fringe show called Round the Horne Revisited, which was a reenactment of the original radio show, and but it would be done on the London Fringe. And I thought, no! I'm not wasting another 7 years, and 7 years on the Fringe, being largely completely avoided by all the casting directors. It was terribly annoying. Anyway, my agent convinced me it would be a good thing if I did it. So I went along for the audition. Funny thing is, the producer was there, and he had wavy white hair. Now, I don't know what it was. If I go short back and sides, it just doesn't look quite right. But his wavy white hair just looked like success. And I was right. Unfortunately, they gave me a rambling Sid song to sing, so I felt I had the part to sing. So I got the part, which is marvellous. But you see, what I was doing for the, because people often talk about the melancholic side of Kenneth Williams, and of course that was there, but my portrayal, of course, was the more humorous side. I mean, people were talking about bipolar earlier on, and I suppose maybe he might have been considered to be bipolar by today's standards, or certainly bipolar curious. The late great actor Jonathan Cecil told me this lovely story about him and Kenneth going to a pub, very rough pub in London, and it was very crowded, and Kenneth just sort of napped him and said, "Watch this." And he got up onto a table and addressed the whole, I'll say the audience, the whole of the pub, and entertained them with songs and jokes and anecdotes for 3 hours. Absolutely incredible. But of course, when he got home, he forgot about that and felt very lonely and not loved. I mean, it is a very nerve-wracking business anyway. I mean, I certainly suffered terribly from stage fright. And then, of course, you keep remembering the audience wants to be entertained, not to criticise. This afternoon might be different. But getting back to Around the Horne, so I got cast in the show. We did it in this tiny pub theatre called the White Bear in Kennington, a bit of a rough pub, very builder's pub, full of smoke it was, and a tiny little room at the back. Now I had performed in this space before to maybe 3 coughing people, and one person who kept walking in thinking it was the lavatory. Anyway, opening night came, we had microphone stands, because it was a radio show, we were reenacting it, so we had 4 microphone stands and 5 chairs behind, because there were 5 of us in it. And it's a tiny little theatre, which normally seats, I think, maximum of maybe 40 people. Well, opening night, we couldn't believe it. There must have been about 90 people, and they'd come far and wide, even from Newcastle, to see the magic of this show, which had been so powerful between 1965 and 1969. The show was an enormous success, and we transferred to the West End the following year, and ran in the West End for 15 months, which is quite extraordinary. No, really. It was absolutely incredible. And then we also did the Royal Variety Show. I mean, that's quite extraordinary to be, so, you know, the theatre we were in the West End only seated, was similar to this, maybe a little bit smaller, only seated 300. And then suddenly being at the Coliseum with, you know, all the big named stars, was absolutely frightening. The Coliseum's 3,000 seats. I mean, really quite extraordinary. We went on 3 times, but it was great fun. A real, well, actually it was quite difficult because, to be honest, the audience were generally made up of foreign people, so they quite understood all the gay lingo we were talking, this language of Polari. But I had other experiences like that from doing other versions of the show. One was called Stop Messing About, which was a sequel to Round the Horne, which had run for 2 series on the radio, and we did it in all sorts of guises up and down the country, but playing some of the biggest theatres in the land, sometimes to the smallest audiences. We played the Liverpool Empire, which is just shy of 3,000 seats. So it looks like football terracing, to 49 people. And I had to start off doing a stand-up routine, which was a warm-up act that Kenneth Williams used to do before the recording of Stop Messing About. And it went something like this. Maybe we'll reenact the silence. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that covers most of you, yes. Little old man, he's in a residential home, he's chatting to a little old lady. She says, "Here, how'd you like to come upstairs and make love?" "Oh," says the old man, "I don't think I could manage both." So the same little old man goes to the doctor. He says, Doctor, I was having a pee, you see, and the old fella came off in the end. Yeah, it's happened to you as well. And he said, "Fortunately, I had the presence of mind to stuff it in my tobacco pouch." So the doctor examines the tobacco pouch gingerly and says, "There's nothing here. There's nothing here except half an ounce of rough shad." That's not the punchline. "Oh God," says the old man, "I've smoked me cock." That was the punchline. Anyway, the show went on and on and on. And then there was a very special relationship, of course, between Kenneth Williams and Kenneth Horne. And in 2009, I got the chance to do a script which had never been performed before, found in Kenneth Williams' possessions after his death. And it was only partly written. It's called Twice Ken is Plenty. And it was just for Kenneth Horne and Kenneth Williams. And they were wandering around the BBC, and Kenneth Williams was playing lots of silly characters. And we performed it at the Radio Theatre at Broadcasting House, and it was a tremendous success. But the difficulty was, of course, actually having to edit it and rewrite little bits and bobs. But the audience, like your dear selves, were fantabulosa. So I'd just like to be able to thank Kenneth Williams for giving me all the breaks and plucking me from the bowels of obscurity to show me the opportunities that are out there theatrically, only to be tossed back occasionally. Thank you very much indeed.